Well, welcome back everybody. And if you haven't noticed, there hasn't been a whole lot of Freetro videos or Geo Metro stuff going on. Let me flip the camera around and I'll show you why. So basically, after I made the last Freetro video, we started having transmission problems the next day. So this video is going to be about flushing the transmission. I have pulled the valve body out of it. I've cleaned all the valves out. Pulled the accumulator and stuff out of it and checked the seals on it, and everything kind of looked okay. Put it back together. We only have reverse when it's cold or at random times, and then first and second gear, swap manual positions on the transmission. I've unplugged TCM. These transmissions will work without the TCM hooked up at all. You just have to manually shift it, which I'm perfectly fine with because, I deal with stuff like this and, stuff like this. So manually shifting something isn't going to hurt my feelings none. And I can fix the TCM, and I will eventually do so. But Project Blue Balls here has been a good car. Haven't really had to do anything to it. Still gets 57 to 62 miles a gallon. So I've kind of pre-staged here. I've got the transmission cooler lines off. And if you're looking to flush your transmission on an 89 301 Geo Metro with automatic transmission, I'm going to save you some time here. So basically, you're going to unhook it from your transmission cooler on your radiator, right? Your upper line right here, I don't know if you can see it, you have two transmission cooler lines. Your upper line here will be the return back into the transmission, and your lower line is the pressure side. So what we're going to do, I've kind of got this rigged up down here. I found an old power steering hose that was right length that would slide in the hose, and I clamped it back on. Got 5 gallons of fluid here. Now, we're going to note that this is not automatic transmission fluid. This is a J20A plus utility tractor fluid. It is a hydraulic fluid for a wet clutch. Basically, you can use hydraulic oil as long as it meets the John Deere 303 spec. We use this stuff in race car transmissions all the time. While Project Freetro is not a race car, it is cheaper. I can get 5 gallons of this for 50 something bucks versus, almost $50 for 5 quarts of it in the parts store. So this is what we're going to use to flush it out. This will not hurt the transmission. But considering we got our problems, I got some Magic Fix stuff right here made by Rizlone, which I am not sponsored by. And we're going to see if this does anything for our problem. Now, I'm not going to add this in while we're doing the flush, but I'm going to flush it first, see what happens. If it fixes it, awesome. I won't put this stuff in there. If it does not fix it, or does not make any kind of significant difference, we'll try our Magic Transmission Fix stuff. Now, mechanic in a bottle is not the right way to fix stuff. Considering this is a free car, I don't really need it. So I can't really justify building the transmission right now. And I don't like anything to sit around because we're going to end up back in the same spot it was with a rusty gas tank and a fuel system that's down if we let it sit. So I'm going to try this because I really like driving this car just back and forth to the shop because I don't drive about 10 minutes. And, you don't have to mash no clutch or nothing. So big plus there. The downside is it is super mega slow. And since this is a start of how to make a Geo Metro faster videos, when you get it back operational. Because I have some big plans for this car. And it's going to be our next cool thing to happen. I've already got a swap planned for this car. But we're going to take the 3-cylinder to its limits first. Assuming we can get the transmission back operational. So watch along with me and we'll get this thing flushed out and we'll see what happens. And alright, at this point I realize that we have no suction on the you know, the other hose, which is totally normal in some cars because they dump into the case. Didn't know if this one returned back to the pump, you know. So basically what I'm going to do at this point, now the transmission pump dry, basically. I've not run it real long. When it starts spitting, I cut it off. So I'm going to refill the pan. We'll start it back up, let it purge that back out. Just repeat this cycle over and over. And basically I'll flush transmission. So wish me luck. Alright, so basically I just poured over a 5-gallon bucket into this easier to pour container. And these things have a super small dipstick hole. So ignore all the oily stuff up here. I put a piece of hose on a long funnel. And just fill in the pan that way. Then I'll start it back up here in a moment and we'll flush some more of this fluid out. So we'll see how things go. I've got fluid running out of the return cooler line now, so I know transmission's getting full. So let's start this thing back up and see if what we get coming out. And we got good fluid flow again. So I'm gonna keep pouring fluid in it while it's running until it comes out clean. Alright, at this point I flushed about 8 quarts of fluid through it. And what was coming out towards the end there was pretty clean. As you can see down here, what's coming out don't look all that hot. So it didn't have no big chunks of metal in the pan. When I had the pan valve body part of it, it did have a lot of nasty stuff. Now keep in mind this car was supposed to have had a transmission put in it by another shop. They obviously could not fix this car. I think what they done, I think they just took the guy's money and left his transmission in the car. But I'm going to repeat this cycle one more time. I've got to dump my fluid down here. Always when you have old fluid, dispose of it properly. Your local parts stores will take that stuff back and recycle it. So let me dump this pan and I'll get it cleaned out. We'll repeat the cycle at least one more time. And as you see, our fluid's coming out real clean now. And that right there is the signal to turn the car off. So, got our transmission flushed out. Now at this point, I'm going to put about 3 quarts in it, connect the cooler lines back up. Then I'll start it up and top the transmission fluid off. But our fluid's coming out clean now, so that lets me know that we got good clean fluid throughout our system. And alright, we got our fluid level set to our cold mark. Let's see what happens now. I do have the parking brake pulled up, so the car's not going to go anywhere. And it feels like we have reverse. Yep, we got reverse. Got drive, second, and low. So well, that's positive. So maybe it was just sticking well, maybe in the pump. Let me turn this thing off here. So basically, let me flip the camera around. We'll talk a little bit more about what I anticipate was going on with this transmission. And alright, sometimes flushing the fluid will help, okay? It's not always a fix. I totally didn't anticipate this fixing this car. It probably won't fix it. But I assume you have seals inside the drums that actuate clutches, and you got an accumulator that actuates the band and stuff inside the transmission. By me eliminating all the electronic function on this transmission, which is a very rare case that you can actually do that, because most late model cars have a computer controlled pump, which means if you unplug it, you don't have no pump pressure and your transmission don't work. And if you run it, you'll burn it up. So basically, on these cars it defaults. So I got our flood level set. It's went in reverse several times here. It still feels like reverse is strong. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pour our magic fix in it, and then we'll get this thing driving around a little bit and see what happens. The magic fix stuff, the Rizlone stuff I got, which I'm not sponsored by them, like I said before. Neither am I sponsored by VP or Tractor Supply or AutoZone. All this stuff comes out of my pocket. I figured it was worth spending about $60 to see, you know, maybe save me from having to pull this transmission out of this car, and we can continue on with, you know, free budget videos with this car. So I'm going to dump the magic fix stuff in it, and we'll see what happens. Stuff looks real similar to Lucas. And for compact smaller vehicles, use half a bottle. That's about a half a bottle. So basically, most of this stuff is just a viscosity improver. So I got this because it said with leak repair, which tells me that it has some kind of seal sweller in it, which is definitely not going to hurt this transmission. So put this in there. I'm going to let it drain down into the transmission and check our fluid level again, because I did leave it on the low side, and we'll see what happens. Alright guys, it's going to take this stuff forever to get down through that little small dipstick hole, so we'll let it be for a little while. But this is what our old fluid looked like. This is a second round. As you can see, it's kind of got a red color to it still. Didn't find any big chunks. And when you do it this way, it is not a replacement for replacing transmission filter. I've done cleaned the filter out in this car. I just want to make sure we got all the clutch drums and the torque converter flushed out. So that's why we're at this point. So we'll let the stuff drain down here. We'll take this thing for a drive and see what happens. So I got our magic fix stuff in there, and verified the fluid level was on full mark now that it is warm. So let's see what happens. So hopefully this thing will go well and we won't have no issues. But so far we got reverse, so that's positive. Seems like we got low gear. So I'm going to flip the camera around and let y'all watch instead of looking at my ugly face. Well, so far so good. that's definitely a positive improvement. Usually by now I would have done lost reverse, and first, second gear would have switched manual positions. I still got reverse, and I still got normal gear positions. So, did the magic stuff work? Probably. Did flush transmission work? Absolutely. Never go to worst case scenario. Always explore your cheaper options. And when you build budget stuff, like this car, this was a free car, just because he didn't want to see it get scrapped, and we're still not going to scrap it. But we did make a semi-successful repair, maybe. So we'll see what happens, and I'll flip the camera around. Alright, I went back inside here, got my other phone mount. Start the car back up, check fluid. Our fluid level is still good. But let me show you why I flushed this transmission. As you can see, our tile's clean right here. Look how clean our fluid is. Alright, so as you've seen, our fluid's super clean still. And this is after driving it. The hydraulic oil is clear, so no dirt or gunk in that. So we start seeing fluid turn dark, we start having problems again and start seeing fluid turn dark, then we absolutely know it's an internal problem. But for pretty much, you know, this little car, it's a little rough around the edges, but and a little doggy because it's an automatic. But seems like we fixed it. I'm gonna put some miles on this thing this week and see how our stuff does. But basically, I usually use a Lucas additive, or you know, something that has a seal softener in it. But you know, I don't know if this stuff actually made a difference or not, or if it was just flushing it. But you know, this stuff don't seem like it has anything toxic in it that would hurt your transmission. And they're an USA made company, so another win. So you got problems, might give us stuff a try. One thing I know for sure, it definitely didn't hurt our situation, and flushing the fluid sure didn't hurt the situation. So I'm gonna hop back in this thing and put some miles on it today. I'm probably gonna drive to town and get some degreaser, and maybe we'll have another how to make your Geo Metro faster video soon. See you tomorrow. Well, so far so good. About 30 minutes drive time, and we're in town in Project Freetro, so transmission's still working great, so let's keep our fingers crossed.